Marshal Service, along with other law enforcement officials, led an operation that resulted in the recovery and location of more than 40 missing children ages 1 through 17. It happened across the southeast of this country. The so-called Operation Northern Lights pulled together a task force of federal, state, and local agencies, along with social and medical personnel, for the 2-week initiative. And officials say the operation led to 9 arrests and included recoveries that could potentially lead to future charges, such as human trafficking and child endangerment. For more insight into that operation by the U.S. Marshals, along with the Brown University shooting investigation, I'm joined now by retired FBI Supervisory Special Agent Jason Pack. Jason, great to see you. You've actually worked a number of similar cases to those missing children over the years. How do investigators try to coalesce and be able to ultimately net as many arrests as they did and apprehensions, or at least collection of so many missing kids like we just learned?
Yeah, first kudos to the Marshal Service and HSI and their partners there in Florida and around the Southeast. These are vulnerable, innocent children that are involved in custodial issues, non-parental kidnappings. Some of them are missing from the foster system. Some of them are being exploited online, or some of them they're posting themselves online and could have been reported missing, runaways, all these types of things. I know this operation is kind of akin to the FBI's Operation Cross Country we did for decades when I was a child abduction team member. Some very important work, and kudos to any law enforcement agency that's out there.
Yeah, it is incredible to hear these numbers.
It doesn't mean that
there's
a lot of stranger abductions going on. I'm sorry, it's important to clear up that this doesn't mean there's a lot of stranger abductions going on out there. These are just vulnerable kids who have some problems and are at risk for that.
Wow. Okay. Oh, great point to make. All right, let me pivot now to the deadly shooting at Brown University. How authorities, got to the suspect. They certainly were relying on the public's assistance, and come to find out, at least someone's tip did help lead them to that suspect. So, how did you see the sequence of events here?
Well, it plays out like a lot of other ones I've been involved with too, with the Boston and some other high-profile cases. You put enough information out there to make the public have enough information to be able to identify that person, and in this case, it worked. We actually appears that John, the person that came forward there in the affidavit that you read, was one of the persons in the video, and I don't think the suspect was expecting him to be so attentive to detail, actually following him out of that building at Brown University and catching that license plate. So a really important point that the public always helps law enforcement, and they're really a powerful force multiplier in these types of investigations.
So talk to me about how investigators might be able to get to the core of motive, and whether the motive is similar in both of the shootings that this suspect is being linked to.
Well, we've seen in the Brown shooting, it doesn't appear that the people were targeted, in my view, personally. It seems like that's more of an institutional targeting. And then we see, specifically with the professor at MIT, it does seem to be a very targeted thing. So I think when investigators go back to try to find answers for the family of the victims you see on the screen there and the other victims who were shot, as well as the professor, they're going to ask the questions about how did these folks come to know each other? What happened even in Portugal back in the mid-90s? They may actually hook up with the Portuguese authorities through the FBI's legal attaché office, get some answers there. You have the FBI offices in Miami, and then you still have the investigation there in Brown and other locations throughout New England.
So then talk to me, too, about the earlier days in the investigation when a person of interest was detained, later released. I mean, those developments on Sunday changed the atmosphere around campus. So how do you, or how does anyone kind of explain how that happens?
Yeah, I really hate the term person of interest. It's such a term that's grown so much, but it really has no legal binding. You're either a witness or a suspect. But that can sometimes lead investigators down one path. But I think what we've seen here, even though we might not have seen it publicly, in these command posts that I've worked, we have other teams working other contingencies. So just because a few people went in the way of that first person of interest, there are other teams out there looking at other pieces of video and developing other probabilities. And it seems like that happened, even though we didn't see that publicly.
All right. Special Agent Jason Pack, always good to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Fred. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.